Sophie, and I'm going to be presenting on my ongoing dissertation work, which is tentatively titled Stand Up Down Home, How Asian American Comedians in the U.S. South Tell Stories About Health. And when I heard that I had 5 to 7 minutes to speak, I thought I was going to listen to a stand-up set, but I chickened out. So it's going to be a random presentation. Here's how it's going to go. It's with the what, the why, the how, the when, the what, the so what, and then the what's next. All right, so let's get into the who and what. So this is essentially the purpose of this research, right? So I'm exploring through oral history how Asian American comedians in or from the South perceive, experience, and talk about health outcomes, health behaviors, and identities. And this is grounded in critical race theory, specifically Asian American critical race theory, as well as the arts and culture and public health framework that's shown on this slide. And then the why, so the motivations behind this research, right? So number one, Asian American health research is lacking, and this is across the U.S. as a whole, as well as in the South in particular. And this is also despite pretty well-documented inequities among Asian Americans. Number two, Asian American and Southern stories are missing. And this is also, once again, despite a long and rich history of Asian Americans being in the South. And I strongly believe, and it's been shown, that only a holistic understanding of these experiences would allow for creation of health initiatives that actually work for us. And then this is the million-dollar question, right? You're like, well, why comedy though? Simply put, I like it, and I wanted my PhD to be fun. And in all seriousness, it's also because humor's been found to impact health. It's also been used to address public health issues and in public health activism in the past. And also because people who've been oppressed, who've been marginalized, have for a very long time used comedy and humor as resistance or to challenge dominant narratives. And this leads us back to the research question on the very first slide, right? So, how do Asian American comedians in the U.S. South tell stories about health? To carry out this study, I recorded 11 interviews across the span of about 3 months, I think, with Asian American comedians of all different backgrounds who live in or hail from the South. And this took me, on Zoom, much of the time, as well as to Winston-Salem, around the Triangle, and to Selma, not Selma, Alabama, but Selma, North Carolina, which is named after Selma, Alabama, fun fact. And then after these oral histories, I'm currently conducting thematic analysis, and so I transcribed these audio recordings with my research assistant. We coded the interviews, we're coding again and again and again, and then kind of iterating to develop these scenes. And this is what we've found so far. These might change because we're still in the analysis process, and so we might find additional themes or modify these as we see them come up. And so the first is that these comedians have a complicated relationship with both their Asianness and their Southernness, right? This is really interesting. And kind of relatedly, migration, travel, and place also intertwine very deeply with both their early life experiences and their life trajectories, as well as their comedy and the stories they tell. And then lastly, all of the comedians have this perception of using comedy as a tool to achieve something. And so these examples are here. But so what, right? Like, all those are cool, but none of them is like super surprising or finding like in themselves. So the implications of these findings are really cool to me. I'm just going to kind of mention some of the implications that come to the top of my mind. One of them is it's so cool that all of these comedians are talking about Southernness as something that they identify with, that they're in community with. They've thought about this, they tell these stories throughout their work. And I think that this is just so cool because there's not that much public health work out there that's looking at Southernness and how that in particular shapes Asian American health of people in the South. And so I think what these comedians are saying and what they can think about how they tell their stories is really interesting and has implications for how community-based initiatives are created and how policies are made, how public health messaging is framed. So it's just a little bit of information. And what's next, right? So I'm hopefully going to finish this analysis at some point. And then I wanted to draw y'all's attention to the second bullet point, which is my favorite thing about this research, is that I'll be archiving these oral histories with the Southern Oral History Program's Southern Mix collection. Shout out to Resta. And this is kind of in the spirit of sharing these Asian American Southern stories, right? And so researchers, high schoolers, anyone in the future can listen to or read these oral histories and get inspiration or learn more about Asian Americans in the South. And then lastly, I just wanted to thank the Asian American Center for this grant. I'll be presenting this at the Association for Asian American Studies conference in a couple weeks. And I wanted to thank my committee, my dissertation committee, as well as my research assistant, Patty Q and Alicia Ha, who have been so amazing in doing this work and have just provided so much insight. So thank you very much.